0.5. 0.5. This is so related to the issue of feed or water, and it has to do with the materials that are used to supply them. So 0.5, inadequate feeders or waterers. 0.5, inadequate feeders or waterers. When the materials that you use to supply your birds with feed and water, that is the drinkers and the feeders, when they are so inadequate, they are too small for the number of birds that you have, are placed in the farm, the hungry man is an angry man. So when the weakest of all the birds is even hungry, it will resort to struggling with the strongest in order to get food or water to drink. And when the birds are just too many for the number of feeders or waterers in the farm, a lot of them will crowd on the small numbers that you have, and you know what this could result to. The pecking order could be breached, it could be distorted, it can result to cannibalism. So make sure that you have adequate or enough waterers or drinkers, and you also have enough or adequate feeders for your birds, and they all stay comfortably and enjoy their meals. 0.6. 0.6, unbalanced diet. Unbalanced diet. When you say unbalanced diet, that is when all the necessary ingredients or nutritional values which are supposed to be present in the feed are not present. Even if you have just one missing, we can say that your feed is unbalanced. Now, when your feed, the feed that you give to your birds, is full of energy, the energy ratio is more than the fiber. What it means is that the birds will have too much energy to exercise, move around, and also struggle. So too much energy in the birds can resort to cannibalism. So you have to balance the too much energy with fiber. So when your feed lacks fiber but there is too much energy, it can resort to cannibalism in the farm. Again, when the protein content is also just too high, when the protein content is just too high, and other nutritional values which are supposed to be present are either too high or too low, those will mean that your feed is not balanced and it can result to cannibalism. So make sure that you provide your birds with quality feed which is balanced. Quality feed which is balanced. Then the next point, that is 0.7. 0.7, it has to do with mixing different types of birds or different sizes of birds or birds with different colors. Please take notes. When you put birds that are of different types or different breeds, so for example, putting Isa Brown and Highland White or Leghorn White, putting them in the same farmhouse, it is not advisable. These birds have different characteristics, they have different temperaments, so staying in the same farmhouse is going to cause a lot of troubles. Again, when the birds are of different sizes, some are just too big, others are just too small, bullying will never be missing in your farm. So the bigger ones will always bully the smaller ones, and this could result to cannibalism. Finally, birds that have different colors. So Isa brown, leghorn white, different colors, or what we call the black and white cockerels. All these are birds with different colors, and the birds are curious. They always want to peck at something that is strange or something that is not of their own or of their own type. So when they have different colors, they want to really look at what is it. So please be advised, don't put birds or don't mix birds of different types, birds of different sizes, and birds of different colors in the same farmhouse. It can result to cannibalism. The next thing has to do with when there is a sudden, or what we call abrupt, there is a sudden change in the environment or in the managerial practices. When there is a sudden change in the environment or a sudden change in the managerial or management practices in the farm, it can also result to cannibalism. For example, your birds are raised on the ground, then all of a sudden you put them in the cage. That is when they are laying, they are matured enough, and all of a sudden you put them in the cage. This is a sudden change in environment. So if you don't manage it well, it can result to cannibalism. I'm not saying that it's not possible for you to change or switch from deep litter to cage system, or from cage system to deep litter system. It is possible, but you have to manage it in order to prevent the birds from being stressed. When there's a sudden change in environment or in the management practices, it just causes stress in the birds, and when the birds are stressed up, they react by pecking. And when pecking begins, the pecking order could be breached, and this will result in cannibalism. Then, when there is too much light, or the light that is close to the nestling box is just too bright, this could also result in cannibalism. When the birds are laying, they require a dark place so that their colleagues would not have the chance to see what is coming out of their anus. When they see it, they are curious. They will peck at their vent. So you make sure that the light that is close to the nestling boxes are quite dim, so that it does not portray or show what is going on in the nestling box. Again, when the nestling boxes are just too few, the best you can do for yourself is to have a box for every 5 birds. A box for every 5 birds. So when the nestling boxes are just too few, it can result in cannibalism, because when the strongest gets to the nestling box and happens to meet the weakest laying, what do you think will happen? I'm ready to lay. Walk out. You know what this could result to? It can result to cannibalism. Again, when you introduce a new bird or new birds into the flock, when you introduce new birds into the flock, this is not advisable. That's not advisable, because when you introduce this new set of birds into the farmhouse, the birds will now have to readjust or reorganize themselves to re-establish the pecking order. So you realize why we had to explain the meaning of the pecking order. new birds have entered the farmhouse. They come from somewhere, we don't know them. But okay, then let's see who is the strongest. When this happens, the birds will now have to adjust, including those who are even those that have been established as the weakest. They will also reorganize themselves to see whether this time around we can also be at the top of the order. So this is not a good advice that you introduce new birds into your flock when they are already matured. It can result to cannibalism. The next point is when you allow crippled birds or injured birds or birds that are dead in the farmhouse. When it remains in the flock, the bird is dead, the bird is crippled, or the bird is injured. When you allow them to remain in the flock, it can result to cannibalism, because that bird that is dead, whether it is the weakest or the strongest, each bird passing by will attempt to see if the pecking order could be breached. So they will peck at it. As they peck and there is an opening and blood begins to come out, these birds will be curious and they will begin to peck. What it means is that they are going to devour this dead bird. The next point is that, pecking or cannibalism could be hereditary. It could be hereditary. That is, it could be inherited. It could be inherited from the parent stock. It could be inherited from the parents. So if the parents happen to be cannibalistic, that is, birds that were found of always killing or eating one of their own, it could be passed down to their offsprings or their babies. And when this is the case, then you are going to have a real issue to deal with in the farm. So it could be hereditary. This is another cause. It could be inherited from the parents. The last point that we want to discuss in this video is that another cause of cannibalism is the issue of learning from one another. Some of the birds may not really enjoy pecking or killing their own, but as they learn from some that are fond of doing it, with time they also begin to learn this habit, and it will be very serious for you as a farmer. The little advice I can give you here is that always you have to look out for the triggers. Sometimes, especially those birds that have inherited from their parents, for them, they just have that natural habit of killing their own or killing their colleagues. So sometimes you have to pay attention to your flock. Just look at them. You realize that some of them really like pecking. Just whether provoked or unprovoked, they'll be pecking. For no reason, they'll be pecking. These birds have that trait of cannibalism in them. So in such a case, what you can do is to isolate this bird. They are the ringleaders. If you don't isolate them and they keep pecking, they keep killing, others will learn. As a farmer, you cannot ignore it. If you allow this to continue and it spreads throughout the farmhouse, trust me, you won't love doing poultry business. So take all the right steps to make sure that you minimize cannibalism to the minimum or to the barest point, so that when there are no outbreak of diseases, there are no accidents, there shouldn't be death in the poultry farm. Please share our videos, pass comments on them, and also subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for coming back to watch our video, and have a good day. Bye bye.